like this disaster in Georgia, as tragedy struck a vital interstate crossing, leaving drivers fearing for their lives.
When the ship struck, there was nothing to stop the bridge from collapsing.
Every ship sailing in or out of Brunswick passes beneath the Sidney Lanier Bridge, Georgia's tallest cable-stay crossing and key to keeping the area on the move. But this isn't the first crossing to span these waters. Its predecessor might have had the same name, but it was a very different bridge.
The first Sidney Lanier Bridge was finished in 1956. It was a lift bridge.
The bridge had two outer sections, made up of steel spans to carry vehicles from either shore towards the lifting section.
The central lift was raised on the Sidney Lanier, and traffic was stopped.
Little did waiting drivers know, but this engineering triumph would soon come crashing. I-95 was busy with vehicles crossing the Brunswick River. Just after 8 p.m., an 11,000-ton cargo vessel was leaving the port of Brunswick, heading for the Atlantic Ocean. An 11,000-ton ship was off course and heading straight for the Sidney Lanier Bridge. At 9:49 p.m., the ship plowed into the bridge, forcing 3 spans into the water, along with vehicles and their passengers. In the darkness, rescuers pulled 11 injured people from the water. But the following day, divers found 10 victims still in their vehicles underwater. Federal investigators began by examining why the ship was off course. It seemed an order had been given shortly before the collision to turn the vessel to line up with the shipping channel. Bridge engineer Adel ElSafty knows the case.
They said that there was a rudder order that it instructed the ship to go to a certain direction. It went in the opposite direction, and there was delay in noticing the error.
This was an 11,000-ton ship. By the time the error was noticed, it was too late to alter course or to stop this massive vessel. The consequences were devastating.
The report cited a series of unfortunate events on board the ship, but investigators also concluded that issues with the bridge had contributed to the loss of life.
The outside spans of the Sidney Lanier Bridge are made of steel eye girders. They are vulnerable to any transverse hit or force by a vessel or a ship, and they don't have that much redundancy.
The reality is, few steel and concrete bridges like this could withstand a direct hit from a ship weighing 11,000 tons. In fact, engineers had factored this vulnerability into the way the bridge would operate.
The 150-foot-long inner spans beside the shipping channel had been designated as buffer zones to be kept clear of waiting vehicles. But here, the vessel was so far off course that it took down 3 spans.
None of the superstructures are designed to sustain an impact and collision by a vessel or a ship.
In the wake of this disaster, federal authorities passed legislation to prevent traffic from waiting on bridges that were vulnerable to collisions like this.
In the decades since the bridge was first built, cargo ships had got a lot bigger, and the 250-foot gap created by the lifting span was seeming smaller and smaller.
In 2003, construction began on a new, much bigger span to replace the lift bridge. Its cable-stayed design removed the danger of shipping collision. Decades later, the approach span of the old bridge still sits in the shadow of its successor, a memorial to that tragic day in 1972.
With the new crossing, not only is the shipping channel significantly wider than before, but the bridge pylons are protected by rock defenses, making it much safer for both the transiting ships and the vehicles above.